Welcome back to another office hour session. We are very happy to hold another session. And just to remind you, in the previous sessions, we have finalized the series of auto-publishing feature in Draftbit. So big shout out to Rahul there, because he guided us. Just a minute. Someone has arrived. Hello, Mehdi.
Hello.
Welcome. So we have just started. So I was talking about our previous sessions. So we finalized the auto-publishing feature in Draftbit. And if you're interested or curious about it, you can always check that on our YouTube channel. And today, we welcome Safa, our expert engineer. Welcome back, Safa. It's very nice to see you here. Yeah, among our users, some of our users, you don't know this, I guess, but they say about you like he's a monster, but not in a bad way,
Okay.
They are just, because of your skills, your custom code skills, and you are coming up with solutions very easily. So they are just call, they just call you like he's monster expert. I think that's cool. So if you have any custom code related questions, or not specific to, it doesn't have to be specific to custom code, but if you have questions regarding custom code or layout issues, you can ask here to Safa, please. I think you should ask your questions here to Safa, really.
You're putting too much pressure on me.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I mean, yeah, that's fine. Okay. So, although today's session is dedicated to Airtable integration in Draftbit, you can ask any of your questions, as I said before. And we are going to show you or present your Airtable in two parts. In the first part, I will talk about Airtable itself and the base URL part and personal access token, etc. And then Safa will take over and demonstrate us the endpoints and other stuff. And please feel free to ask any of your questions during that session.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then let me share my screen. Okay. Yes. Are you able to see that? I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, this is, I thought that this would be very helpful visualizing the steps in general. But before diving into that one, let's talk about some Airtable itself. So actually, Airtable is very favorite among our users because it's very, modern database. I think it's like spreadsheets, but pretty much different from that one as well. So I think it is very flexible and fast way to create tables, and it's pretty, I think, clear when you use Airtable. So now in the setup in Airtable, we are going to talk about how to create our base and table, and of course, getting our base URL and a personal access token. And then we're going to show how to save that personal access token as a global variable in our Draftbit app, and then paste it to authorization header. And also we're going to paste base URL in our REST setup. And then we're going to show endpoint setup in Draftbit. Now, let's, of course, before start, you should have an Airtable account. this is my workspace, and these are two bases that I have. So in this space, I have two tables. So the best part about Airtable is you can create tables from templates, or you can just, here, for example, import your data from CSV file or other, for example, from spreadsheet as well. So here we have a sample table, which shows us its name is to do. So this is the name of tasks, and these are some notes. We have assignee and status here, as you can see. We have some options, and we have attachments. I think Safa will demonstrate how to extract those information into our Draftbit app. But I just want to show you, but maybe I can show it in another separate table. Let's create another table. I'm going to create a blank table. So this table, let's name it as officer. Now, once you create your table, you need to access your base URL, right? And personal access token. The best way is to click on help, and you will directly access to API documentation. Actually, this documentation is pretty helpful because all the available information is tailored according to your base. For example, my base name is office hours, and it says it's office hours, right? And it gives directly the ID of base here. This is pretty important because this base ID is what we are going to use in our base URL. Let me show it. Now, from here, you need to move on to authentication. And this is the example of a base URL, but actually the base URL is this part. So we have here the base ID, as you can see. This is the base URL. Let me just paste it somewhere safe so that we can use it elsewhere in our Draftbit app. And also, after getting this base URL, we would need a personal access token. But let me show how to, just a minute. Let's create a blank app. Oops, sorry. So in Draftbit, we have native. By the way, I'm so sorry. I think I have admin properties enabled. Do you have the same problem, Safa?
It's not a problem. Yeah, it's like
No, not a problem.
yeah, like
Not a problem.
no, of course.
Okay. So please don't surprise. It could be
Different
a little
than
bit different from what you're seeing. We have some admin features that we are testing right now. So we have we have some connect service here. We're going to use Airtable, and let's name it as officer. And here we need to paste our base URL. Let me take it over here. So now, but we need to also add authorization header here. This here, as you can see, this requires some authorization header. And this secret API token can be generated from here, which is personal access token. Why personal access token? Why not API key? Airtable now announced that the API keys will be deprecated. And when you hit on create token, you are directed to personal access token screen. But what is the difference between API keys and personal access token? Is actually personal access token. Please correct me if I'm wrong, by the way, Safa, but personal access tokens give you a lot more control over your base, because when you have API keys, users can access the complete base and all the table, all the fields. But with personal access token here, you can define scope, and also you can give access and permissions to the bases that you choose. For example, this is an example personal access token that I use for another project, and I can add a scope. For example, with this API key, with this personal access token, they can create, edit, and delete records, or just also read. And also you can add base. For example, you can enable all current and future bases in all current and future workspaces, or you can just choose just the base that you prefer here. And here, let's create one. Let's add scope. Let's just read, and we're going to use it in office hours base. So when we create that token, we need to copy this one and paste in a safe place. Then we're done. Now that we have our personal access token, we need to just leave it here. We need to paste it here as an app variable. Airtable authorization. And of course, we need to write here barrier, and then our token. Actually, it's pretty much similar when we use API keys, right, Safa?
Exactly. This is nothing different than a normal REST API implementation.
Yeah. So let's paste the base URL. This one, I guess. And here I'm adding authorization header and selecting the global variable that we just created and save. And from now on, you are able to create your endpoints. Yeah, I think that's all I can show you right now. From now on, I will leave the stage to Safa for him to demo us some endpoints and how we use patch or post, etc. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask anytime.
And yeah, like first of all, everything you've just seen until now is already available in the documentation that we have in Draftbit. So basically, everything that you see that remains at it, you can just take a look at this documentation and act accordingly. And I just told you before, after you get the base URL and the personal access token, everything else is just implementing a normal REST APIs. Thanks to the powerful tools of Airtable, it's just pretty straightforward. And let me show you our demo app. So we already had created one so that we can just play around with this. So let me show you the Airtable API service first. So the stuff that you just saw, we have the base URL here and the authorization header here, and then later on it's just going to be all implementing the endpoints. and we can take a look at the documentation here. So this was our table. So first of all, that the very basic implementation would be listing all the records. So you can just come here and take a look at the documentation over here. But before adding some filtrations or sorting information, all we have to do is just call the to-do list in order to get all the data that you see on your table. So let's implement that. So basically, we call this get to use, and you don't have to define roles, but yeah, I'm just gonna do one thing here, like as an object to use. And for the path, you can take a look at it just to be sure. It has to be the same name of your table. So in our case, our table name is to do, as well as you can see to do here, and that's what you have to enter here.
Sorry, Safa, sorry to interrupt. I just want to add some information here.
Yeah,
By the way, our Airtable is going to be updated again soon. And here we have also in the documentation table ID, right?
exactly.
You can, so,
You can use either table ID or the table name.
but what is the best implementation, right? Because you can change the name of the table.
Exactly.
So, but the table ID will remain same.
Exactly. You're totally right. So it really depends on the user's preferences. So like if you're not going to change the table name that you're sure of, you can just keep using the to do, or the very best approach, very best practice to use the ID of the table. And so that like even if you change the name of your table, you can just keep getting the same results. But for this demonstration, I'm just going to use the to do here. And then after that, since we add the authorization header while we created our endpoint based URL, is always going to be automatically came here. And later that is just going to be testing our records. And yeah, as you can see, we get the same response here. And Airtable will always return the results, records of that result as an array in the JSON object called records. So after that, you just have to do some parsing, extracting to see the visualization of your code here. So like basically, this is the most simple way to get your records here. But we also have some thing called sorted lists. So assume that you want to get your table information in a sorted way. So how we're supposed to do that is in your parameters, we have got some fields here. So for example, you're just gonna sort by fields, and like where the field is going to be your property, and the direction is going to be ascending or descending. So all the information that you require about this is also here. You can just take a look at this documentation and just you can see filter by formulas, and there are so many other things that you can just take a look in their documentation. You can just do some calculations by maybe, for example, calculating or multiplying some values and sort the values based on those information are always used by these query parameters. And thanks to Airtable, they have got this tool. You can access this tool through their documentation. You can just come over here, enter your base ID and the table name, and yeah, we can just do it very quickly here. One sec. So our base ID is his, and our table name is to do. And yeah, we'll just you can just type your field's name. So for example, task ID, and you can use your records, and you can type in your maximum results. Like you can just make it limit to 30, or sort based on any other field that you want to do. Like the name of the field names has to match with your table columns. So right now I don't have any numerical information, but I can just sort them by based on those and everything. And this will give you the URL that you have to use in order to get based on these parameters. So we have already done that. We have already created a sorted list, and I will just show it to you. And let me go back here. So I just want to sort based on name in a descending orders. So when you test this, now our data will come based on the descending order on the name. So like the T, F, B, and just goes this way. So this is how we retrieve the data. So and you, as you might already know, the rest is handled by the Draftbit, and here we have a fetch component where we use the Airtable to do get point, and instead of to do get, we can use the sorted list here, and then inside this fetch component we can have a list here that shows the results of these records, and every single item in this list will be shown here, and we can continue this way. This is how we get the data, but in traditional database, we would also want to able to create records, update records, or delete records, and let's take a look at those endpoints. And for create views, let's open our like before that, we can just, yeah, actually, let's create the records first and we can come back later on. So in order to get the to create records, we first of all have to use a post request. And this is the base URL, again, what to do without any query parameters. But the tricky part is that we have to send the data in a JSON format. So let's come back here. So we create another endpoint called create to do, and the object role is going to be a create role, and the path will be the table ID or the table name. But right now we use the table ID here, and for the request body, we'll have the records here. So basically, there are two ways that you can define this endpoint. For this testing purposes, we predefine the fields here. So we're just gonna add only one record into the database by calling this. But for example, here we have an array, and inside the array we have one object, and we predefine the properties of that object using our builder here. So again, if you want to attach images, if you want to upload your image, it's also possible here. What you have to do is just call the attachments property and set the URL of this property to the base 64 string of your image. So for the testing purposes, we use just like a small binary information of an image, and you don't have to do anything about your headers and making your test done. So like basically Airtable handled everything else at the behind. So it just created this new record and uploaded this image, and you can just go ahead and take a look at your image. There you go, it's here, the new data. But what else you could do, you can have multiple items added at once. So in order to do that, instead of predefining this information like this, you can just take this all as information and send records at once. So within your app, you can create, for example, assuming that you want to create 3 rows at a time. So basically, you inside the builder, you have to go and create a custom code that will handle this creation of this object, and just send that object within this parameter. So Airtable will handle that multiple creation of your app. So basically, this records is going to be a JSON object. This is a tricky part because you have to be sure that the object that you're sending is a valid JSON array. Otherwise, it's going to be failing. So like if you're not very familiar with working with JSON objects or like JavaScript in general, I would really suggest you to go with this approach and add your records one by one. So that's what we do. And once you're done with that, all you have to do is use our API action call to create your task, like in this case. So for example, we have a form here and we have a button at the end. And let's take a look at the action stack of that button. So like right now we don't do any validation here, but it's a really good practice to add a validation before you send your request to your API. So imagine you would have some, for example, assignee or status. So right now the status column of this table is like you have to choose in between these results. So basically, before you send your data to your endpoint, you have to be sure that the status value is one of these values. Otherwise, you will have some problems that data won't be saved on your Airtable or etc. So I really suggest you to, oops, where's my app? Implement a validator before you send and request your API. So for example, let's assume that we have entered correct data here, and what else we're going to do is like we're just going to call the Airtable test service with the create to do it endpoint, and we're just going to type in our values here. So the text input values are the ones that we use in this form, and then we also have an image, which is the image value that we have selected in this upload image file. So uh, test one, test one, assignee Sefa, and it's gonna be to do. Let's take a look. To do is together, okay. And you can just leave your upload image, or like you can just use an image from your app, and let's use this one. And pressing the add to do, it just adds the new if you don't have any problems, it will be updated to your table.
There was a
I
problem
think
with
you has a capital
CRUD
letter.
fetch.
Sorry. 1 second. Let's.
I think there's a capital letter to into.
I might have made a mistake. So that's a really good example of adding a validation would help you a lot, and like handling the error messages and everything would be much better in this case. So let me try again. If not, just test one, so far, and to do. Let me take a look at it again. Yeah, to do. Oops. Refetch to do is not defined. Refetch to do is not defined. Oops, this one is the problem here. Yes. Yeah, there you go. You're right, Victor. Because of the capital letter information that we entered there wrongly, it was a problem. So there you go. Like, and it's pretty live. Like whenever you do something on your app, right after you make the call, Airtable updates itself automatically. So it's another good feature. And like for example, editing this data inside the Airtable will also new update. Let's say will also update our app on the screen. And like once you refetch the data, you will see the updated result. It's just gonna be work new update, yeah, accordingly. So this is how we create the app. So let's have a look at the other endpoints. Let's take a look. Once you want to update a result instead of before deleting. So like for updating the results, we have to use a patch report here. And like, again, we just have to use the to do or the table ID here. And again, we just have to use the records with the ID and with new information that you're supposed to do. So let's take a look at how we implement it in our app. So right now, oh yeah, instead of like you can update one single item, say one single property of an item or entire item. It's just up to you. Just you can play around with yourself. You can create multiple endpoints for multiple field updates. For the purpose of this demonstration, we just created this endpoint just to update the name property of a record. But again, you can like this Airtable API supports the update of multiple rows with multiple data. So like you can take a look at this example. Like what they do is just they try to like sending this data will update these two rows with these informations. But you can just take any of them and just this patch call will ignore the other items. So in this example, we're just gonna update the name of the row with the given ID. So let's take a look at our IDs. I don't know if we have this right now, but like if this ID is valid, then the name of that row will be YYYY. So let's try. So it didn't find the ID of the name, say the table. So let's try to use an ID from here. It's going to be a data from our own table. And request body, paste this. There you go. So this ID, the row with this ID has name YYY now. So let's look at our table. There you go. This row is updated with the name. But if I included the nodes or assignee or status or anything else or attachments, it will also update those informations as well. So that's how we patch the information, update the information in Airtable. And next step would be deleting the records. So let's have a look at the delete records right now. Again, we just have to use the to-do as the base URL, and we're just gonna have to use the system like this, the ID, and with the property deleted through. So let's take a look at our delete records. We're gonna use the to-dos, and we're gonna send the method will be delete, the object role will be delete. The path parameters is going to be the table ID and with just ID. Actually,
No, that's fine. I mean,
that
was the response.
Exactly. You don't have to just this response. I'm so sorry. I just made a mistake. So this is how we're supposed to send the information. But this is going to be the response. If that row is deleted, it's just going to give us that information. So let's try one of these IDs again and use this. And yeah, you don't have to do anything about the headers now and click test. And there you go. This row is now deleted. You can just take a look at the table. The row with the YYY name is now deleted. So that's how you delete your rows. And one very final thing is just getting the one single item, like get single to do. And that's, you can just get retrieve a record information. And for now, like for this, you just have to know your ID of your row again, and you have to just call it after your table's name or table's ID. And let's take a look. We just have to get one item, and we're just gonna use the table ID with the ID of that row. And I'm not sure if this is available right now, so let's use one of our IDs here. Paste it here. We don't have to do anything with our authorization headers and just click test. So there you go. We just get, instead of an array, we just get an object of our row with the fields and the attachments and everything here. So there you go. This is how we implement the CRUD operations in the Airtable. And yeah, after that, for example, clicking on this touchable, we're just gonna send, like you can have another screen that will display the tags information, like the row information with the image and stuff. And you can just use the delete endpoint, like here, all we're just gonna do is delete the record with the row ID, and we're just gonna delete the item. But again, this the fetch data is the error here because we changed the name of the item, so it's just that's why it's just giving an error. So let's delete this one, and we just refresh the list. There you go, they're all deleted. So yeah, as I told you, like implementing Airtable is nothing different than implementing a normal traditional REST API, but you just have to know these little tricks, and their documentation is pretty helpful on this. And you can make sure that you can create multiple items at once. You can update multiple items at once. You can delete multiple rows at once. So like everything is like the limit is yours there, and you can just play around with different data types because they've got so many different field types here. And yeah, you just definitely have to make sure whether you're sending the correct data or not, because just in the demonstration, when I typed to do wrongly, it didn't add the new record. So before you make a create records call, it's a good practice to add a validation form beforehand. And yeah, that will be it, I think. I don't know if you have any questions. I would be happy to answer them all.
Yeah, thanks a lot
Thank
for the
you.
presentation. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mehdi. Go ahead.
Thank you, Sabah. It was very helpful. I'm just gonna ask how we can do validation form. Do we create a custom code for it, or can we do it like non-code way?
You're asking about relation. I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
And he was asking about validation form.
A validation form, yeah. Let me show you a quick example of it, and like that's how we do it in the express world, let's say. So, for example, this is a name field. So let's say name input here, and what I do is I personally use the names exactly. So let's say name value. So the second input would be nodes assignee status. So let's call them nodes input input assignee assignee input and status input. So it will help you get organized in a good way. So let's rename them. So text input 2 will be the nodes value. You're gonna understand why I'm doing it in a minute. So assignee.
I already understand.
Assignee exactly, and the text on status value. Status value. And yeah, once you change them, the data source of your fields are going to be updated correctly, but like sometimes it might not work. So it's always better to reassign the data status data source to the new names. Oh, sorry. Let me clear them all, and status value here. Assign input. 1 second. Node input. Node's value, and the name input would be name value. So yeah, we can define them. So while you're in that screen, you can go ahead and let's create another variable called. Oh, sorry, there's so many traffic jam outside. You can create an error message property here, and it's gonna be a string value. And just before your submission button, you can add a text component. Sorry, right after that, and you can add it here. and this will show us the error message. And this error message, and let's only show this message while there's an error. So everything is set up correctly, and let's use a different color here for this error message. In your validation form, just create a screen function, and we can call this valid form. And you can check here, for example, if no name, or like a name value, which is the name that we just used, is equals to empty string, you can type like set error message to you must enter a name value, and you can return false. We can use the similar things. You can add multiple validation forms here. Notes value, and let's keep it like this. If none of these will return false, then you can set error message to an empty string, and you can return true. You can add the different things. For example, if you have an email field, let's say you just want to make sure that the email entered is a valid email entered, you can do some regular expressions or something like that to validate whether that email is a valid email address. Then you just, after you're happy with your validation form.
Can I ask a question here?
Of course.
Can you get back to the custom code?
Of course.
So the name of the error message, you set it up as the set error message.
Exactly.
So is it?
How do I know that is a set error message, right?
I'm sorry.
How do I know that set error message?
Yeah.
That's really, really good question. So when I enter the error message here, so it's always like based on, like, for example, if I want to set the notes value, it's going to be set notes value, but with the capital N. But the safest way to understand how this works is by going into your export code. So once you're in your code, there's a section where you define like the builder defines your states, and we have an error message here, and you see the set error message written here. So for example, name value is set name value, notes value is set notes value, and the set error message is going to be the ones that I'm using. So this is something that I use all the time, so I don't come to this code view and just copy and paste automatically. This is how it's going to happen, so that's an automatic thing that I do. And since this is a screen function, so as you can see, the function that we have created is going to be rendered within the same screen. So that's why it allows us to access to the set error message. It's unlike the global variables, we don't have to use set global value or something like that. We can directly interact with the screen level variables. So that's how we do it.
Okay.
If this was a global variable, like if I want to enter a like global error message, what I could use is just this function sets app variables, and then you use set global variable value and update that value. You can see the documentation in our community, and that's how it will work. But right now, in the screen level, this is how you can do it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do you have any other questions, or shall I continue?
You can continue. Thank you.
So, okay, then in the add button, like while you're creating your own press, before you will call this, you can, like, there are so many different ways of doing this, but this is the quickest and easiest way. I have a condition, I add a conditional stop here at the top. And this conditional stop will only happen if my valid form function returns a false value, which is negate. So basically, what this app will do is just first call the function, and if the function return function of this call is a false value, is a negate value, it's just gonna stop doing the rest. Okay. So for example, the data that I've just entered is empty, and clicking add to, yeah, you must enter a valid name. See, and yeah, for example, you must have noticed that I'm setting up the error message to empty result right now, because if I don't, for example, let me add a value here, click add to do. The name value is supposed to, I just copy and paste, and you must enter a valid nodes value. For example, name value, I just added a name value. Now it says you must enter a nodes value. If I enter a nodes value and then click add to do, now I just click the data. So I just have to add two other form fields to validate the assignee and the other values as well, but I just didn't do it. So that's why it just went through. But you have to handle everything here, and this is going to be the easiest way for you to validate your forms before making a query to the create to do. I think it's clear now.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Also, we have in community, I guess, tutorial for it in the custom code section or in tutorial section. You can reach out the example there as well.
Yeah, I saw the example, but I didn't understand how do I, create the name of the function, the set function.
The set functions, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's clear right now.
Yeah.
This way. Okay, cool. I'm glad to hear that.
And thank you, Safa. I think Victor has his questions.
Yes, thanks. Yes, I have a question regarding authentication. From what I understand, there are two types of authentication in Airtable. You can either authenticate with personal access tokens,
exactly,
or with oath authentication. Exactly. And I'd like to understand how is it possible to authenticate in order to enable users to access only their data in a secure way. For instance, if you use Xano, you have a personal token which is generated automatically, and I'd like to understand if it's possible in Airtable or if you need to use a third party.
Yeah, in Xano, you can create the authentication token after login. So like you can generate this token per user session. But for Airtable, there's like you have to pre-create this token and implement this as a fixed value inside your app. So yeah, that's where you have to be careful. So this data that you're accessing is not going to be limited to the that person only. So this, make sure that you're using the Airtable for data that you just want to show to your entire user database, not just for like one particular user type. So that's one thing that you have to think of. Like think of Airtable as a Excel document that you're just gonna be sharing, or like Google Docs document that you want to share. You can limit the access to see that table, that form within the app by using different methodologies, but there's no access way, direct way for you to create the personal tokens per session in Airtable.
Oh, okay, I understand. And do you know if there's any third party I could link maybe to Airtable in order to do that?
Yeah, I'm not very like an Airtable expert, to be honest, but I'm sure that since they're a big tool, there are so many other tools that you can integrate Airtable to. So like you can use the same database with different parties. But as I told you, I'm not very Airtable expert myself. So I would suggest you go ahead and take a look at their documentation.
Sure thing. Thanks.
No worries. Okay, do we have anything else?
I actually have a problem with my app, but I don't want to disrupt the flow of the Airtables. So if there's no question and if you can help me, I would really appreciate it.
I would love to take a look at it, Mahdi.
Okay, can I share my screen?
Sure. Let me close mine and take a look at yours.
Okay. So what I want to do here is I have a onboarding screen here. Can you see my screen?
I can see it, yeah.
Okay. So what I want to do is I want to show this page once to the user, and after that I would just like to navigate to my login screen.
Okay.
So if you download the app once, you see the onboarding screen, and after that, if you skip it, you don't see ever again.
Okay.
So
Cool.
what I try to do here is I just in the root navigator, I set my
Initial screen to
here, yeah, initial route to onboarding here.
yeah.
So, and I try to do a device variable for showing onboarding screen to
Very nice.
true. It will be true first. So in my
Onboard screen.
yeah, onboarding screen. So if I click this button
Exactly. You set that to false, I
to
believe.
false, yes.
Yes.
And after that, I'm stuck because I don't know how to display the screen here. And if the value is false, I want to navigate the login screen, but I couldn't do that.
You have finished 99% of the whole task by yourself. So congratulations for that. And it's pretty easy. It's like click on the screen focus action after,
Yeah.
add a navigate action. Yeah. And configure like destination would be login screen.
Okay.
Okay. And the condition will be show onboarding to false. So you have to just use negate here.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so which means that if the onboarding is false, which means that you don't want to show the onboarding anymore, it will direct your users to your login screen. It's not going to be shown to the user again. But make sure that it's only going to happen if they have the app and like it will be this way until they have their app on their phones. Like if they delete the app and reinstall the app, they will be seeing that
Okay.
screen app, but like it will
Yeah.
solve, I think, your problem.
Yeah, it does, but I tried this already, and what it did was, it navigates onboarding screen, and directly it navigates me to login screen.
Yeah, do you see the onboarding screen loading?
Yeah. Can I just
Of course. Hard to refresh this app.
okay? So I wanna show it to you on web preview, but I think I have a problem here.
I understand what you mean. Yeah, that
Yeah.
could happen. That's something that might happen. We also have another feature being developed in these kind of cases for our users who never want to show any part of the screen to the users, but it's not developed yet. But one more thing that I can suggest you in this scenario would be, like, let's load the app and we'll see.
Okay.
So we're working on the secured routes in our app. So click skip and like, but this, you're in the app, so it's gonna be always the
Yeah,
same.
yeah. I don't think I can show you right now,
I
but
understand your problem. What you can do is on your like onboarding screen
yeah,
on the swiper, like on the first item on the swiper,
yeah.
you conditionally hide that property. So like based on the show onboarding, so that the screen will be blank. So what your users will see is
Oh,
a blank screen without any card image or anything, and then they can redirect to the login screen. That's another solution to this problem.
okay.
But yeah, you can be sure that we're working on this, like for our users, for specifically for this kind of case,
Okay.
that will stop them using like showing the onboarding screen itself.
Okay.
Like the suggestion, like I just made, like conditionally hiding that swipe component will help you a lot, like without showing the users the initial screen.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I'm glad if I could help.
Thank you, Mehdi. Thank you, Safa. Do you have any other questions? Victor, if you have questions?
Not from me. It's all good.
Okay. I think that's all. And it's been almost an hour now. We can wrap up our session. Thank you, Safa, for joining again. And by the way, we have a very exciting session next week, right, Safa?
Yeah. We're
Safa will be.
OpenAI ChatGPT integrations, like, and we're just gonna create an AI assistant within Draftbit, so you can book your calendar for the next week's event, and we're just gonna show
Yes.
it.
Victor, yes, please.
No, sorry, little mistake. I want to explain that.
Okay, that was just for claps. Okay, thanks. So please join our next session as well and bring your questions about OpenAI API integration, AI-powered app. You will witness how to integrate and how to build AI-powered app in Draftbit with help of Safa. Okay, thank you for joining today's session and hope you enjoyed all. And we will see